Greetings everybody, great to be with you for the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil on the Autódromo Velocitta in Mogi Guaçu. After a fantastic start to the season for round one, it is great to be back for the second weekend in the 2026 championship for Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil and Porsche Sprint Challenge Brasil. The drivers have already taken to the circuit to get their qualifying laps underway. We're here for time qualifying first and foremost, the first race of the weekend coming up a little bit later on in the day. You're live and we are ready for exciting battles to begin. I'm Jake Sanson, great to be with you once again for the English speakers amongst us. Luc Monteiro, of course, handling the commentary for Portuguese viewers, as is Chris Diaz down in the pit lane. For the British viewers and the international viewers, you're stuck with me, but I promise you, you're going to be pleasantly entertained with all of the action and activity that we have around the circuit here at Velocitta. This is a very exciting race circuit for Porsche Brasil. It always generates activity and always provides great action. So I have a feeling that today is not going to be any different. There's always a big energy around this place and certainly always great unpredictability. In 2026, we've got new drivers on the starting grid. Obviously, the first round of the championship in Interlagos was very exciting indeed. And it certainly put in some fantastic battles. We got to see some great performers out on the circuit, including a young driver by the name of Pipo Massa, the son of Formula One Grand Prix star and legend of the sport, Felipe Massa. Pipo managed to come away in the rookie category, which is out on the circuit now for time qualifying, with a pair of victories to set himself into position as a first-time racing driver full-time in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, with a double-header victory. Here at Velocitta, he's hoping to do exactly the same thing again, but he's definitely going to have it tough. This is a very different style of circuit compared to Interlagos. This one is just as uphill and down dale as the Interlagos circuit, but it's nowhere near as frequently used, which means it's dustier offline. There's a lot of elevation changes and camber changes mid-corner and mid-sector, like there is in the world of Interlagos, but it is a very tricky race circuit, and it's tough to set the car up here to get the most out of it. The rookie drivers are currently underway for their 10-minute qualifying session. We have Andrei Gadzinski, Marco Billy, Paulo Souza, Bruno Campos, Jose Morenito, Luis Souza, Leonardo Sanchez, Edu Guedes, Vanya Pontes, Sangyo Kim, and of course, Pipo Massa, who did such a fantastic job at Interlagos last time out. I'm excited to see what the rookies are going to give us for this round of the championship. There's certainly going to be plenty more competitors to come through. Sadly, no sign this weekend of Rafa Brocchi. He's not going to be competing this weekend, so he is not out on the circuit, at least to the best of my knowledge he's not, because I don't know why you would send out onto the circuit anything less than immediately. So far, no sign of Marco Pisani onto the circuit, or indeed Rafa Brocchi, so we'll have to double check and make sure that they are going to come out onto the circuit for this one. But certainly a very exciting run expected for the run to pole position. 1:35.3 is currently the pace set by Vanya Pontes, but we're definitely going to go faster than that as we keep our eye on Marco Billy. Very talented racer is Marco Billy, 36 years of age, competed in the sport category in 2025. Also competed in GT3 Cup Brasil for 3 years, won in the challenge back in 2020. It's great to see him back in the saddle once again. Let's see what kind of lap times he's going to produce as he comes through, but he's only just getting up to speed again now, so we haven't really seen the best of him. Pipo Massa's gone second, but we're still not quite at pure pace yet, as the competitors are just starting to dial in the fast laps that we have come to expect from them. Yesterday's practice sessions certainly gave us plenty to get excited about, and we certainly got to really understand what sort of pace the drivers are setting. Certainly amongst the rookies, the fastest lap time set yesterday was Luis Souza, who managed to get a 1:31.23 on the board. So the fact that Edu Guedes is currently on a 1:34.9 tells us that we're not quite at qualifying pace just yet. So all of the lap times at the moment are to be taken with a pinch of salt, because there's still a lot more pace to come. To give you an idea, Andrei Gadzinski, who set the slowest time in practice yesterday, got a 1:34.1. And the time that we've got at the moment from Vanya Pontes is a 1:32.5. So we are going to get quicker. Vanya Pontes has done a 1:31.9 as his best time, and he's 0.6 of a second off that, as we're now really starting to get towards pace, and the great performances from the drivers are set to accelerate. The competitors are obviously getting themselves up to speed. There is the 33. That is the car being driven by Bruno Campos. Expect him to be challenging for a front row starting grid position in the rookie category. Another great competitor. GT3 Cup Brazil back in 20. He's actually raced Porsche Brazil ever since the 2020 season, so just as we came out of lockdown. And he was the endurance rookie champion 2 seasons ago. What can Bruno Campos do? 1:33.46. At the moment, Leonardo Sanchez has the fastest time, a 1:31.35. So he is now starting to set electric pace. Sector 1 and Sector 2, fastest of all is currently Jose Moranito. 26.9 for the first sector, 25.0, and it becomes the fastest time, a 1:29.713. And that is quicker than anything we had in practice yesterday amongst the leaders, not just the rookie class, because the best time we had in official practice yesterday was Miguel Paludo on a 1:29.9, and Jose Moranito, the leading rookie at the moment, has just done a 1:29.7, so we're definitely flirting with fast time pace. There is the number 9, Edu Guedes, the man from São Paulo. He is the Gordon Ramsay of Brazil. Not only that, he is also the Carrera rookie sprint champion 3 seasons ago. So plenty of great ability and talent coming through from this superstar as Ryan Mascherano is getting himself ready to go back out on the circuit. It's lovely to see him back in 2026. He actually had to sit out of the 2025 season due to his business commitments, but it is wonderful to see Ryan Mascherano back again. Competed in Formula Truck Brazil, Brazil GT, and the GT World Challenge European Sprint categories over the years, and the 53-year-old from Sapazal in Mato Grosso actually took the win overall here back in 2024 as a sport driver. Well, he's a sport driver again, and it's wonderful to see him back. Sang-Yo Kim, we just saw him out on the circuit. He's been competing in all sorts of things recently, including Sang-Yo Kim. He's actually been competing in the Lamborghini Trofeo Asia. Last year he was top 5 in the championship as Pipa Massa gets a 1:30.1 laid down. So that puts him into a competitive position. That's second overall at the moment, ahead of Leonardo Sanchez, Marco Billi, Vania Pontes, and Edu Guedes, who is the leading master of the 5 masters that we have in the rookie category alone. Now, a reminder to everybody that at the end of the rookie session, we have the sports session, and then we have the Carrera Cup session, and then the top 10 drivers from all of the times gathered together will then go into the top 10 shootout, and we'll find out who's going to be pole position for the first of our sprint races this weekend. After that, we'll then have the same procedure carrying on for the sprint challenge, although the rookies will go out, and then we'll have the challenge and sport challenge drivers out together just because of the reduced numbers on the starting grid, and then we'll have the top 10 shootout once again for the sport challenge. So settle in, grab yourself a nice snack or a nice cold one. Plenty of good qualifying excitement coming from Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil and Sprint Challenge Brazil over the next hour and 45 minutes or so. So certainly Jose Moranito, the man to beat all weekend, not just in the rookie session. A 1:29.7, quicker than anything Miguel Paludo laid down in practice yesterday. So now we really are starting to go for some big times. And to bring that out in this session is a real statement of intent from Jose Moranito, who has been the quickest of the drivers in rookie so far. Leonardo Sanchez on your screens, number 15, currently behind Jose Moranito and Pipa Massa. And there is the 99, Vania Pontes. Good to see him once again, the founder and CEO of PK Race Park, who also goes racing in his spare time. Not that he has a lot of spare time as the CEO of PK Race Park, but he does love driving, and what better car to drive than the Porsche Carrera Cup car. Do right as well. He's a fabulous entrepreneur, is Vania Pontes. But if you've got the chance to play with race cars, what better championship to race in than Porsche Brazil? You really do get the bang for your buck. Across the line comes Vania Pontes. Does he improve? He's done a 1:31.2 previously, 1:39.7 on this occasion, so he must be dialing up to this one being his last flying lap. We'll have to keep an eye on it, but it's certainly looking good at the moment. Further around the course, we're following the 25. That is the very talented Paulo Souza, one of the leading masters. And certainly a very competitive race driver. Won the Dopamina Endurance Brazil title 8 years ago. 7 years ago, he won the Imperial Endurance Brazil title. been taking it easy of late, but decided to return to racing with the Porsche Brasil category. As we watch Leonardo Sanchez try and get the fastest time in the session, 1:30.224 is still his best time. He did a 1:33.9 the last time round. But he does have the fastest first sector of anybody in the session, so that's worth bearing in mind as he goes into his final flying lap. There is Pipo Massa, number 19, son of the great Felipe Massa, but very much a competitive racing driver in his own mind. Started karting last year, drove in the 500 Milhas de kart at the legendary Granja Viana. And of course, on his debut in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil 3 weeks ago at Interlagos, not only did he put on a great show, he got the victory in both races in the rookie category. Looks to me as though he's bailed out of the lap. He has indeed, so second place will have to do for the time being. Meanwhile, out on the circuit, Vanier Pontes is the first one to cross the finish line under checkered flag conditions, and he does not improve his last time. It's a 1:32.1 that he crosses the line with, but he had done a best of a 1:31.242. So, are any of these times going to be good enough to be top 10 overall? With a 1:29.7 from Jose Morenito, there is a good chance of that. And maybe with a 1:29.8 from Pipo Massa, he could get there as well, based on the fact that Miguel Paludo's best time, and he was the quickest of all in official practice too, was a 1:29.9. So perfectly happy, Jose Morenito, no worries at all from him. Purple in Sector 3, and very good in Sectors 1 and 2. Fastest of all in Sector 2, by the way, was Pipo Massa. Fastest of all in Sector 1 was Leonardo Sanchez. Though already the signs are good for a very exciting weekend at the office here at Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. In the rookie category, it's Jose Morenito who gets the provisional pole. Pipo Massa second, Leonardo Sanchez third, from Marco Billy, Bruno Campos, Edu Guedes. Luis Souza is seventh in front of Vanier Pontes, Paulo Souza, Andrei Kaczynski, and Sangyo Kim. So to give you an idea of the pace that's been laid down, Jose Morenito's best time there was a 1:29.7 compared to Pipo Massa on a 1:29.89. Fastest overall in practice 2 was Miguel Paludo, a 1:29.9, ahead of Antonella Bassani, who did a 1:30.1. She loves it around this particular circuit. And when you consider that the best time set yesterday by a rookie was that set by Jose Morenito, he was 5th overall. He actually got a 1:30.3. So he's gone 0.6 of a second quicker than he had ever gone. Pipo Massa's best time yesterday was a 1:31.5. So he's almost gone 2 seconds quicker than his personal best. As you can see on your screens, Chris Diaz currently in conversation with Jose Morenito, who got the provisional pole position in rookie qualifying. If your Portuguese is better than mine, you'll obviously be able to track down what was said in the interview, both on the Portuguese version of our live stream and on social media. But so certainly Jose Morenito, number 45, doing a grand job and putting himself into the top spot. He was 5th overall in practice yesterday, fastest of the rookies, but there's only 0.182 of a second between him and Pipo Massa. So there's a genuine chance that both drivers may get through to the overall top 10. Just based on what we saw from practice 2 yesterday. Jose Morenito was 5th overall in practice yesterday, only bettered by Miguel Paludo, Antonella Bassani, Bruno Campos, and Ruman Zimkovic. And then, of course, Pipo Massa has just gone and bettered his best time by 1.7 seconds compared to yesterday in practice. That is a huge confidence booster for the 16-year-old Pipo Massa. So we'll get to see what they're made of if both times are good enough to be in the top 10. There is Lino Perez getting himself ready in the sport category. Quite a few drivers, of course, in sport. We'll have Alcio Feldman, Silvio Modestoni, Christian Moore, Alcio Feldman Neto, who gets to return to the fray. There is young Pipo Massa, second fastest, youngest man in the field, only 16 years of age. And what a great start for him to get a best time of 1:29.89 when previously his best time had been a 1:31.5. Very impressive indeed. A great start to proceedings there. And a very good start to the weekend as far as everybody is concerned. Certainly a very exciting challenge ahead for all of the drivers. we're looking forward to seeing what will happen as a result of what's coming, because with those two very closely matched, I think there's a good chance for more. So we'll get to see some more exciting battles for everybody. I think that was Dudu Massa who was in conversation there with Pipo at the end. That is, of course, Pipo's uncle. I had a great conversation with him at the tail end of Interlagos. He was very, very happy indeed with the hard work that Pipo put in over the course of the weekend, as of course were we all. So we are now under green flag conditions for the next session. And out onto the circuit goes Alcy Feldman in the all-new colour scheme for his #1 car. He no longer carries the Tag Heuer colours that he used to. He has upgraded for this round of the championship, and now he has a very different appearance to his car. So as the drivers venture out onto the circuit, definitely a bit of a changing of the guard moving forward. No longer is Alcy Feldman in the Tag Heuer car. Now he is in the Vitacon car, which is more of a luminous green and black rather than a dark green and black of the Tag Heuer car. End of an era. That was a wonderful race car, the Porsche Tag Heuer machine. No longer there, as it has now been traded up. One thing hasn't changed, though, for Alcy Feldman Neto, and that is that he still carries the colours of Lightning McQueen. He is the Brazilian Lightning McQueen, although, of course, he doesn't run under the number 95, as that does anymore. Now he runs under the number 8. So there on the circuit is Devon approaching us. That is the first of the contenders in this particular category. In the sport category, of course, 67. The car belonging to Gustavo Janon is the 14. Is the car belonging to Carlos Campos. And certainly the man who's in contention for best liveries of all time in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil has got to be Yosemar Junior. He is an early contender for livery of the year again in 2026. He obviously had that, probably I would say, personally in 2024, largely due to the fact that he ran his colour scheme in tribute to the late great Ayrton Senna, as 2024 was 30 years since the late great legend's passing. He actually ran his race car in a livery in tribute to Ayrton Senna, where the whole car was in Ayrton Senna's helmet livery. It looked absolutely magnificent on a Porsche. This year, the Hebron colours of Yosemar Junior's car are a very deep navy blue with a very colourful jigsaw puzzle all around it. It looks absolutely stunning for this year. There is Gustavo Janon in the smooth number 29 car. I'll be very keen to see what Gustavo Janon does this weekend. The CEO of Seguralta, 3 years racing in Porsche Brasil. This is only his 5th season of racing in any kind, as we now look at Silvio Monostoni, who has raced almost everything, BR Montana and BR Turismo over the years. Moved straight up to Carrera from Trophy last year. Such was his very impressive performance in the Porsche Brasil Trophy. Though he's leapfrogged all the way out of Sprint Challenge into Carrera Cup, which is usually the indication of how good a driver they are. So that's definitely something to bear in mind. As we look again at the number 29 car, that is Rodrigo Melo, in fact, in the 29. Looking earlier at Gustavo Janon in the Seguralta car, but the smooth car, number 29, that is Rodrigo Melo, 45 years of age, started racing Porsches in the Challenge back in 2013. He's been racing Carrera since 2018. Loves the sport, loves the category. He's a very much a fixture of the competition now in what is season number 14 for him. Great to see him, having been such a fantastic contributor to the championship. He's raced many times over the years. Multiple race winner in Challenge. Number 1, Alcy Feldman. He's won it all. Raced Porsche since 2019, former race winner in Stock Car Pro. 6 times a winner in the championship over the years. And very much a serial competitor. Expect him to be challenging for the overall pole position. Alcy Feldman did actually go up to the top 10 briefly yesterday, but he wasn't really on form. 1:31.94 yesterday. We were waiting to see the drivers crack into the 1:29s. Only 3 drivers all weekend have managed that, of course. 2 of them in the previous rookie session, Jose Morenito and Pipo Massa. The other one is Miguel Paludo, the reigning champion. So I would not be too shocked or surprised to see those times tumble again. So Leonardo Herman, car number 23, the Coppert machine. Great to see him in sport this year. Steps up from the challenge category, of course, at the front of the field last year. There is the beautiful Yosimar Junior number 27 car that I talked about. Deep navy blue with jigsaw puzzle pieces insignia. Looks fantastic. And if you're not going to run the Ayrton Senna helmet tribute livery, that is a close second for vivid paint schemes on the Porsche. And fair play to Yosimar Junior. Right, Israel Salman has just done a 1:29.756. So it does look as though we're going to be a lot quicker than we were yesterday. So Israel Salman, on only his 3rd flying lap, has put in a 1:29.7. It took Jose Mora 4 laps to get to a 1:29.713. So then that does suggest that Salman might be able to find a little more in the tank. And Israel Salman was only 11th quickest in practice yesterday. So the beautiful weather conditions today certainly favouring him at the moment. Only 43 thousandths of a second slower than Jose Morenito. Here comes Yosimar Junior. First proper flying lap. How far up the order is he going to move? We'll wait and see as he comes across the line. 1:31.572, so he's about a second and a half or so off the pace, but there's still plenty of time. 5 minutes and a half left in the session. 10-minute sessions, of course, in qualifying. As Gustavo Janon goes top. 1:29.377 for Gustavo Janon. Here he comes towards us. Having just crossed that finish line, Gustavo Janon doing a great job. Good lap there as well. Yesterday he got a 1:31.0 out of the session. So he's almost 2 seconds quicker than that. So that does kind of give us a bit of a rough idea that this time of the morning, when the sun hasn't really set onto the circuit yet, it's not even 9 a.m. here. And so the circuit is at its coolest. So obviously it's going to be at its fastest as well. As Ryan Mascherano goes second. He goes very well here. 1:29.60. And he's now a quarter of a second from the top spot. So Leonardo Sanchez has been passed on the timing screens by Leonardo Herman, Roman Simkovic and Carlos Campos. So there's a very good chance that only Jose Morenito and Pipo Massa are going to be left behind in the top 10 of the rookies. We're just waiting for the inevitable fast times to come. We've still got decent times to come from Yosimar Junior, Francisco Horta, Seba Malucelli, Linu Perez, Christian Moore, Alcy Feldman, Rodrigo Melo and Silvio Morastoni. So I think that's going to be too many sport drivers to keep Leonardo Sanchez in the game. Maybe not for Jose Morenito or Pipo Massa. 1:29s could well keep them in the top 10. Gustavo Janon across the line again as Israel Salman finds a 1:29.24. Even quicker from Israel Salman. And that is the fastest time we've had all weekend. Christian Moore goes up to 5th position. Jose Morenito has been able to take it back because the lap time's been deleted. Roman Simkovic now comes up to 5th place, as Christian Moore has now split Jose Morenito and Pipo Massa, and Leonardo Sanchez has now been eliminated from the top 10. So just 2 rookies remain in that top 10, Jose Morenito and Pipo Massa. But if everybody's going a second and a half quicker than they were yesterday, I've got a feeling that maybe Jose Morenito and Pipo Massa are not going to last too much longer. So Alcy Feldman goes up to the top, 1:29.234, just 11 thousandths of a second quicker than Israel Salman. Seba Malucelli comes forward, as does Rodrigo Melo, and that's eliminated Pipo Massa from the top 10. But he will still be the 2nd quickest driver of the rookies, with a great chance to go for the victory later this afternoon. Alcy Feldman in the Renault car, looking to continue making big headways. 2 minutes 45 on the clock. Feldman from Salman, Janon, Mascherano, Malucelli, Campos, Zimkovic, and Jose Morenito from Rodrigo Melo and Christian Moore. That's the top 10 at the moment. but that is with 2.5 minutes to go in the sport category, and none of the Carrera Cup drivers have come out yet. Of the practice times that we had yesterday, the fastest was Miguel Paludo, the reigning champion, ahead of Antonella Bassani. So that bodes well. Marcel Müller was only 17th quickest, the reigning endurance champion. So I wonder if Marcel Müller's left it all to do for today. Meanwhile, Rodrigo Melo has now got Linu Perez chasing his time down, 1:29.802. We've got Feldman, Salmon, Janon, Leonardo Herman up to 4th place in front of Ryan Mascherano. Then Seba Malucelli, Carlos Campos, Roman Zimkovic, Jose Moranito is 9th now, and Rodrigo Melo is 10th. So if we get improvements from Perez, Moore, Junior, Horta or Morastoni, or at least 2 of those, then we're certainly not going to get to see a rookie in the top 10. Meanwhile, we are closing down on this absolutely gorgeous Brazilian flag car, the 22, Ryan Mascherano. And is Mascherano going to get a top spot? Well, he's not improved his time. He got a 1:29.63 compared to his best of a 1:29.60. And you can see how hard Ryan Mascherano is pushing the car, desperately trying to push the Franga car further up the order. In practice yesterday, Ryan Mascherano didn't really feature. He got a 1:32.5, and that was that. So clearly in these cooler conditions, he is having a lot more fun. We're going to see a replay of something that's happened further back. Oh, that's how close he can get for Roman Zimkovic. Goodness me, that really is riding the limit. That could have been a very nasty accident indeed, but he managed to gather it up and slow the car down. So very good news indeed that Zimkovic is still going and still with a car in one piece. Certainly wanted to come to this weekend in peace rather than to come in pieces. Out of the final section comes the hard-charging Gustavo Janon, trying to improve his time. More great work in 2026 from these drone pilots. They are amazing. He was close to the race action as possible. This is Rodrigo Melo. Can Melo get across the line into the top 5? He goes 9th, so that pushes Jose Moranito down to P10. All we need is a quick time from Linu Perez, Christian Moore, Silvio Morastoni, Yosemar Junior or Francisco Horta, and we have no rookies in the top 10 at all. Of course, we're unlikely to keep rookies in the top 10 because we've still got the Carrera Cup drivers to go. But we'll see if anybody's on a quickish lap. Oh, I'll tell you who is. Christian Moore. He was fastest of all in Sector 1. And he's done a 26.6 this time. Second sector is a 25.6. This might not be better, actually. He's going to be about 9/10 of a second off his best. And that's only if his third sector isn't anything less than perfect. There's Linu Perez. He's done a 26.7 for the first sector and a 24.9 for the second. That's good. This could be good enough to put him in the top 10 for the moment. But certainly it will be the lower end of the top 10. Because the 26.4 is... 26.3, sorry, is the best first sector that we've had. Christian Moore goes 12th because he doesn't improve. He bails out of his final flying lap. Linu Perez is committing to it. Is this going to be enough to put him into the top 10? It's going to be tight for Jose Moranito. Will the leading rookie stay in the top 10? No, he does not. Linu Perez goes P4. And so that's all of the rookies eliminated. So as it stands at the moment, the top 10 is Alci Feldman Senior, Israel Salmon, Gustavo Janon, Linu Perez, Leonardo Herman, Ryan Mascherano, Seba Malucelli, Roman Zimkovic, Carlos Campos, the leading master, and then it is Rodrigo Melo. So that's the top 10. You can see that's the Feldman garage because the sister garage has Lightning McQueen colours on it. So that is Alci Feldman Senior's race engineer. Just letting him know he got the pole in the sport category for the moment. I don't want to say he definitely has because, of course, if we get 1 or 2 of the drivers from sport going through to the top 10, then the sport pole may go somebody else's way. But Jose Moranito, now that the rookies have all been eliminated from the top 10, Jose Moranito is now confirmed as the rookie pole position sitter. There's Francisco Horta with that fantastic fluorescent psychedelic skull livery that he's got on his car. You're not going to miss Francisco Horta's car from a distance, are you? You wouldn't want to meet that on a dark alley. Not a bad start to the season then for the 14, Carlos Campos. Leading Masters performance from him. So he can be very happy with that. That's why there's celebrations amongst Carlos Campos' crew. They've got through to the top 10 provisionally as well. But certainly it's looking like Carlos Campos is going to be the leading master in the competition. Quite a considerable way ahead of Edu Guedes, Luis Souza, Paulo Souza, Andrei Gaczynski, and Shangho Kim. Ryan Mascherano is not registered as a master because he is not quite of age yet. But he's certainly not too far away from that. There, out of the car gets the man who is still backed by Tag Heuer, I should point out. You can see it there on his helmet design. But he's decided to bring this new corporate partnership, this new livery, to the 2026 Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. And so Alcy Feldman provisionally on top with a 1:29.234. We've often seen sport drivers go fastest that even get pole position in the top 10 shootout. So don't count him out yet. There's a good chance he might go through. So could this man, Israel Salmen, who is the second quickest at the moment on a 1:29.245. But those two lap times are a lot quicker than anything we've seen in practice. So those two drivers could well have done enough to get through to the overall top 10. P1, Alsu. And you might stay there. It's certainly a very good start to proceedings. Fastest of all in Sector 1 was Christian Moore. Fastest of all in Sector 2 is Salman. Fastest of all in Sector 3, Seba Malucelli. So the consistency is what gets a seat at the top of the table for Alcy Feldman. Certainly a very good start to proceedings. So we'll see if there's going to be any more great action as they move forward. So it's going to be an exciting battle now because we've got the competitors from the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil's main category, the leading group, heading out onto the circuit, and they will be pitching to put themselves into the top spot. Expect big things from this man, Marcel Muller, in the 544, and from this man as well. Our onboard cameras with Miguel Paludo, the reigning champion, the Michael Schumacher of Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. Such a prolific talent and great racing from him. And so the drivers venture out onto the circuit in the Porsche Carrera Cup Premier category. Time to go to battle, time to go to play. And so the drivers venture out onto the circuit. It's going to be a great contest for the pole position. Alcy Feldman Neto, car number 8. Antonello Bassani, number 72. Miguel Mariotti, 21. 97, Jeff Gyasi. 544, Marcel Muller, the reigning endurance champion. Matias Camparato, the 19-year-old from Sao Paulo, former F4 Brazil champion back in 2024. Lucas Salas, number 70. Miguel Paludo, the reigning Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil sprint champion, number 7. Number 17, Marcos Regadas. 117, Pietro Fantin. And number 10, Thiago Vivacqua. 36 cars racing wheel to wheel later today in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, brought to you by C6 Bank. What a fantastic championship. There's not many one-make championships that can put 36 drivers on the grid and to give such a great battle from the competition as well. So we've got 11 drivers in the Carrera Cup category. On paper, that could mean that there's no sport drivers in the mix of the top 10. However, the lap times that we've seen from Alcy Feldman, Israel Salmen, and probably Gustavo Janon as well, maybe even Lino Perez with that 1:29.4, could be enough to put them in the top 10. Could, I stress, as it is still going to be very competitive indeed all the way to the finish. So we'll have to see how it all progresses. But it's definitely going to be a tough race battle ahead. So we'll see how everybody is able to get up to speed. Certainly it's going to be a very intriguing run for Alcy Feldman Neto. who had to miss the first round of the championship rather sadly. He was on Spanish Winter Championship duty in the new Euro Cup 3 car, racing on the ex-Formula 1 circuit at Jarama in Spain. So it's great to see him back again in Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, where we've missed him, to be fair. Can't believe that was 4 weeks ago. 117, getting up to speed. Marcos Regadas, serious talent. Big opportunity to see what he can do. Drove in Sport last year, has raced in TCR, both in Brazil and in the World Tour. So he's definitely a serious competitor. There is Marcel Muller. Started off with a bang at Interlagos in great style. Has raced in MXGP, in motocross. GT3 Cup Brasil champion back in 2019. 2024 Cup champion. And 2025 Endurance Cup champion. Certainly a favourite for the race wins this weekend. There is the Shell car, the Shell V-Power car, Matias Camparato, the former F4 Brazil champion, also raced for Brazil in the Motorsport Games back in 2024 in the F4 category. And there is the reigning champions car, Miguel Peludo, 42 years of age, from Porto Alegre in Rio Grande do Sul, and has raced in pretty much everything. ARCA, NASCARs in the trucks, GT World Challenge Europe, Xfinity in NASCAR. He has the record for both pole positions and race win, and he's the reigning Cup champion. He is the man to beat, although he had a tough time at Interlagos, but he has not given up the ghost. He will keep racing, he will keep pushing the brand number 7 until there's nothing left. Miguel Peludo coming off the final turn and planting the car in a perfect run down the straight, still warming up the tyres and brakes. So we're not seeing anything competitive yet. We'll certainly see something competitive shortly. Let's ride on board with Miguel Peludo. In fact, I'll go quiet, let's listen in. Such a physical part of the lap this, both on car and driver. You go through the S's, and you also get a fabulous elevation change. Peludo actually backed off on this lap, so he's going to have another crack at it. But it's certainly going to be fascinating to see how he will work himself into another good position. Gonna have to dial in once again and see if he can make a good run of it. Back on board. Got to make sure you've got yourself a little bit of breathing space, because it's not always particularly easy to do that. Really get yourselves dialed in around the circuit and make sure that you're in a neat position, in a good place. So as everybody gets themselves into a strong position, we're obviously hoping to see which of the Porsche Carrera Cup class drivers are going to be in a good position for the victory. Do get your messages and comments in. We'd love to hear from you as we prepare for more great action around the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil paddock. Now, we're going to get some decent times down on the board. Jeff Gyasi has just put in a 1:30.16. That's good enough for 16th overall. So that's got him a little up to speed. Still a lot to do, of course, but it's certainly a step in the right direction. This is how to get it slightly wrong. Eek. Scary point on the circuit for that to happen as well. But well recovered from Miguel Mariotti, number 21, promoted from Sport, won the Challenge title in 2024 ahead of Antonello Bassani. So certainly knows how to get the job done in a Porsche Carrera Cup car. Here is the Brazilian Lightning McQueen from Pouso Redondo in Santa Catarina. He has raced Formula Regional Middle East Trophy and Euro Cup 3 and runs, of course, the Lightning McQueen colours. Meanwhile, here is Jeff Gyasi. Great to see Jeff Gyasi back in the paddock full time. very talented man is Jeff Gyasi. He's certainly put on some great performances over the last 18 months or so, when his schedule allows him to, of course. He's not the most full-time of the drivers, as Marcel Muller has put a lap time on the board of a 1:28.342. Jeff Gyasi's done a 1:28.8. Bassani, on your screens now, has done a 1:29.1. And I've got so many positives to talk about Antonella Bassani. Sport champion back in 2023 at the tender age of just 16. Can you believe it? She started the season at the age of 16. By the time the season ended, she was 17 years of age. But she won the Porsche Sprint Challenge in Brazil in 2023. Came second in the competition in 24. Stepped up to the Carrera Cup last year. And of course, also raced in TCR South America as a 16-year-old. Very impressive. There's Matthias Camperato, definitely a future Le Mans star with the Porsche brand. Stepping up the game with Shell V-Power this year. They really believe in this boy, and no wonder. 1:28.677. Second quickest, just quicker than Mariotti, Gyasi, Bassani, Fantin, and Alcy Feldman. Get this for the battle between father and son. Alcy Feldman Senior and Alcy Feldman Nito are separated on the timing screen by 1,000th of a second. Honestly, you could not script that. Little bit of oversteer from Miguel Paludo. Tidies it up. This is the setup he likes. Likes to get a bit of a kick out of the turn. Is this going to be good enough for a pole position lap? Not yet. Tiago Vavacqua has gone second, 1:28.4, 0.13 behind Marcel Muller, who surely is going to make up for the difficulties of 2025 here at Velocitta, when he led the opening round first race, led the second round first race here at Velocitta, and on both occasions got a puncture. This is a tough race circuit. As Camperato's gone third, Bassani's gone back up to fourth, Alcy Feldman Nito's gone fifth, and that is back into the pits for Marcel Muller, who clearly feels, look, I don't need to set the fastest time. I've done a 1:28.3. That's going to guarantee me the top 10. And to be honest, he's probably right. That's a second quicker than Alcy Feldman Nito, nearly. Jeff Gyasi, 7th quickest. He's gone through. Alcy Feldman is the only sport driver still in the top 10. As long as Paludo or Regadas goes quicker, then that completes the set. There's Miguel Mariotti, 5th position. Mariotti, the man who beat Antonella Bassani to the 2024 Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil title. But still some big performances to come from the competitors. It's going to be a really exciting competition for our drivers as they still put on a great showcase. Everybody's going hell for leather and putting on a really solid effort at the moment. So everybody still doing a very solid run as all of the contenders continue to make good work of this pole position run. Alcy Feldman still sticking it out there in P10. We're just waiting for Miguel Paludo, who really has left it late. 1 minute to go in the session. But the best time he's cooked up is a 1:29.24. That's not going to be good enough to get through to the top 10. Imagine if the reigning champion gets eliminated. Up over the curbs. So let's see if there's enough pace in the car. It's got to keep it smooth. Not going to be easy. One mistake and it all goes according to someone else's plan. Pushing, pushing, pushing. The boost is on. You can tell the boost is on because that's the flashing headlights. You only get a certain number of boosts in the weekend. You can use them whenever you want once the qualifying starts. So Paludo is having to resort to the boost to get himself into the top 10. It's desperation time for the reigning champion. Final couple of corners. Time ticks down to 0. No more lap times can begin. So Paludo's got to tidy this up. 26.49 in the first sector, 24.96 in the second. It's good, but it's not going to be pole, that's for sure. but is it going to be good enough for top 10? He's currently 11th. It's got to be clean. Peludo crosses the line. 11th, he's out. Miguel Peludo is not going to go through to the shootout. The reigning champion will go no further. Wow, that is a miserable start to the weekend for Miguel Peludo. He's already had a tough start to the season, and now he'll go no further. There's Thiago Vivacqua. He went second quickest, 1:28.4, so he will fight for the pole position. But Miguel Peludo, the reigning champion, will not. My goodness me. What a way to start the weekend. And so, the battle really is an exciting one, nice and early. Who'd have thought? So now, the 10 drivers that do go through are Marcel Muller, Thiago Vivacqua, Matthias Camperato, Antonello Bassani, Miguel Mariotti, Alcifer Neto, Jeff Giassi, Lucas Salas, Pietro Fantin, and the one sport driver amongst them, Alcif Feldman. I am shocked. I'm sure that Miguel Peludo is as well, but not for the right reasons. He really didn't want to be there. Well, what a very difficult situation this is now as he goes into one of the toughest race circuits on the calendar, starting 11th. He's got to try and work his way through the field. And of course, anything from about 8th position downwards on the grid, and you're in cannon fodder territory. There's no guarantees starting that low down that you'll get a clean race of it. So it's definitely not going according to plan for the reigning champion. For Lucas Salas, no problem. 8th position, he goes through to the shootout. The gap between the drivers in the top 10, by the way, is just under 9/10 of a second. Alcif Feldman Neto did improve his time in the end, so he does go quicker than his father. 1:28.79. Matthias Camperato, 1:28.6. Good run from him. As the Porsche Cup Brasil pole position shootout is getting ready. There's Marcos Regadas. He doesn't make it through. 1:29.4, his best lap. What on earth happened to Marcos Regadas? Certainly not the kind of lap time he was hoping for. And so the drivers now looking forward to another solid shootout for the pole position. And it is going to be very interesting to see if Marcel Muller can keep that consistency. Surely he's going to be in the mix. There is Alcif Feldman Neto, Brazil's very own Lightning McQueen. To prove the point, he races in that race suit and the helmet, number 95. I'm not entirely sure, actually, the reason why he runs as number 8 now rather than 95. I'm going to have to ask him. I'll come back to you with an answer for that one. So there is Pietro Fantin getting himself ready for the shootout. Only 10 drivers making it. And of course, everything is reset in number order. So the pole position in sport is Alcif Feldman. The pole position in rookie is Jose Morenito. Now we need to find out who the ultimate pole position is. And that will be another 10-minute session. But 10 cars only on the circuit. Not much of a difference really with the previous sessions because there's only 11 drivers in the Carrera Cup Premier category. So very exciting run. Good to see everybody get very close to the mark up in the first session of the season. Already a very good run. And so the driver's getting ready for the command. 10 minutes on the board. And we'll get to see just how things will progress for the competitors gunning for pole position. We certainly know who's going to get the sport pole. And And we certainly know who's going to get the rookie pole, but now it's time to see if Marcel Muller can get the job done. It's certainly going to be a lot easier without Miguel Paludo in the top 10 shootout. I am stunned that Paludo hasn't been able to make it on this occasion. It just shows you how competitive it is in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. And it didn't look like Miguel Paludo made any particular mistake on that qualifying lap. Certainly not one that I could really pinpoint as where he lost the lap. But it is so competitive in the Carrera Cup category now. 36 drivers going for the top spot. And you're playing with hundredths of a second sometimes, not just tenths of a second. But it's definitely going to be very intense. On the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil live feed for Portuguese, we've got Miguel Paludo being interviewed by Chris Diaz, who no doubt will be devastated. Absolutely devastated that he's not made it through. So that will certainly not be according to the game plan. And one can only expect Miguel Paludo to go into racing with a long facial expression or two. Not exactly where he wanted to be at all, is it? And certainly from his perspective, I think he would have liked to have had a little bit more. So with Miguel Paludo out of the session, he now has to sit and watch as the other drivers venture out onto the circuit and challenge for pole position. And what a competition it's going to be. There is the 19-year-old Antonella Bassani, the only woman in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil field. We have a woman, of course, in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brasil as well. That is Cecilia Rebelo. So expect some more big battles to come from the contenders. More great challenges from the drivers as they gear up for a fast lap. There is Alcivar Manetto, along with the 97 Jeff Gyasi. But it's certainly going to be an interesting and intriguing run to the pole position. We'll see which driver has what it takes to make it happen. There is Matthias Camperato. Expect big things from him as well. I think we can expect some really solid performances. But we'll get to see who really has the strongest run off the time sheets at the end of the session. It's not going to be easy to determine who is going to be at the front end of the field. So we'll try and work it out after the session. That they're going to be a tough one to the pole position. 1:29.2 was the benchmark laid down. Is anybody going to go faster than that? We'll have to see. But it's certainly going to be tricky to figure out who's got what it takes, because what we saw in that previous session is not necessarily what we're going to have for the next one. Some drivers will have just done a lap good enough to get them through. Others really will have pulled out all the stops just to get in. So now we're going to figure out what happens next, essentially, and see what will happen. Miguel Mariotti hoping for a lap time that will put him on the front row of the grid. 9 Carrera Cup drivers and 1 sports driver, Alci Feldman Senior. See, the drivers are still dialing in the lap time at the moment. A 1:38.7 from Antonella Bassani gets the ball rolling, but that is not going to be a competitive time. We can expect lap times in the low 1:30s, maybe 1:29s. Certainly some big opportunities coming for some more great lap times around the course. In the first free practice yesterday, where we had some variable conditions, a 1:29.6 was the fastest time in Carrera that came from Pietro Fantin, 1:29.6. So you can expect to see similar sort of lap time pace. There is Alcy Feldman Sr., the one driver in the sport category that has made it through to the shootout. All the others are naturally from the Carrera Cup category. There are occasionally not just drivers who get pole position from sport, but also race wins, including this man, Alcy Feldman Neto, who got the job done in the season finale last year in the endurance category. There is Antonella Bassani, still trying to put on a lap time that will get her to the front row of the grid. We've been building up to an overall victory in Carrera Cup. We've certainly had some great class performances from Antonella Bassani. And now she wants to go for the victory. She's already a Sprint Challenge champion and vice champion in 2023 and 24. Now the 19-year-old, who actually turns 20 in 2 weeks' time, getting themselves ready for a chance at pole position. Currently Bassani's time is a 1:30.7. Marcel Muller still warming up the tyres and brakes. Just tucking in behind Matthias Camperato. He wants to give himself enough clear track that he can go for a push, but sometimes it can be motivating to have a car a few corners in front of you, just to give you something to chase after. Get him in the zone. Alcy Feldman Neto, 1:29.71. Faster than his father by 0.8 of a second at the moment. Second is Miguel Mariotti. Feldman Sr. is third. Then Antonella Bassani, Jeff Giassi, Lucas Salas, Tiago Vivacqua. As up to second now comes Matthias Camperato. But Marcel Muller is just starting the fast lap now. Jeff Giassi moves up to P6 in behind Antonella Bassani. Then Salas, Pietro Fantin and Tiago Vivacqua, who has yet to set a fast lap time, nor has Marcel Muller. There you go, the flashing headlights tell you that that's the boost button. If the lap time feels very good, you probably want to use the boost just to get a little bit more out of it. You're only limited to the amount of boosts that you're actually given over the weekend. Quite important to be frugal. But Antonella Bassani gets a 1:29.1. That's a lap time that means business. So Antonella Bassani going quick. Very good work so far. Miguel Mariotti goes to a 1:29.0. And Alcy Feldman Neto 1:28.3. That's big early doors here. But Marcel Muller is trying to get some decent lap times laid down as well. 26.1, 24.6. That is the purple first and second sector for Marcel Muller. Look at him leaning through these apexes. Jeff Giassi's come up to second on a 1:28.669. Then Mariotti down to fourth now because Tiago Vivacqua's gone third. Ahead of Mariotti, Bassani, and then Matthias Camperato, who's going to try and go better. Here comes Marcel Muller. Is this going to be a pole position lap? Of course it is. 1:28.04. That is going to be hard for anybody to beat. He only misses out on purple in sector 3 by 9 thousandths of a second. Here's Antonella Bassani. What's she done across the sectors? 26.21 in sector 1, 24.80 in the second. Personal bests for her. So this could definitely be better than a 1:29.1. If she can get even anywhere within the first half second of 1:28, you'll be happy with that. 2 minutes to go. Across the line comes Antonella Bassani. What is her pace going to give her? Third, 1:28.51. Very good. So now Antonella Bassani is in the fight for victory. Marcel Muller leads Alcy Feldman Neto and Antonella Bassani. Pietro Fantin now P4 in front of Jeff Giassi, Tiago Vivacqua, Alcy Feldman, Miguel Mariotti, Lucas Salas and Matthias Camperato. Still waiting to see what Camperato can give us. 26.2 in the first sector, 24.7 in the second. So Camperato definitely one to look out for to finish the lap strong. Out of the turn comes Tiago Vivacqua. Currently running P6. Can he go further up? P5, 1:28.6. In the background, Lucas Salas wants to go better than 1:30.0. Let's see if he manages that. He does. And so too does a big lap time from Camperato. Camperato, 1:28.53. Lucas Salas gets a 1:28.289 in the Wish Porsche. Alcy Feldman Neto happy with third place. He knows he can't get much more than that. That will do. Lucas Salas has just beaten him to the front row of the grid, though. And Marcel Muller has beaten them all to pole position. With 40 seconds remaining, I don't see anybody really getting that close to Marcel Muller. Mind you, having said that, Thiago Vivacqua has just gone purple in Sector 2 and comparable in Sector 1. Antonella Bassani's coming through. She's down to 4th position. Can she go quicker still? No, the lap time isn't quicker for Bassani. But she's just starting her final flying lap, that's why. So Lucas Salas, having just done a 1:28.289. We're waiting to see what Thiago Vivacqua can do as he comes across the line. Will he go up from P7? Bassani on her final flying lap. 3, 2, 1, time's up. So race back to the line and make the most of your lap. And put it all together if you can. Meanwhile, Thiago Vivacqua is trying to move up from 7th on the grid. Fastest of all is his in Sector 2. This is great from Vivacqua, but he comes into the pits. He finishes it up. No improvement from Thiago Vivacqua from out of P7. Meanwhile, with the checkered flag in the air, Antonella Bassani wants to finish this. Looking at her sector times, we've got Bassani on a 26.4 and a 25.4. So yeah, I don't think she's going to go quicker. I think she knows it too. 0.8 of a second back in the second sector. That will not be a pole lap. And so Bassani comes in. So it looks to me as though Marcel Muller has done it again. Pole position here at Velocitta. Ahead of Lucas Salas, Alcifel Manetto, Antonella Bassani, Matthias Camperato P5. Pietro Fantin is P6. Then Thiago Vivacqua, Jeff Chiassi, Miguel Mariotti, and Alcifel Senior. There you go, Marcel Muller back to his best. Pole position again in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. And that's what it means to him. Even with 40 kilos of ballast on board, you can't knock a Muller when he's on song. Very good work from Marcel Muller. The team will be happy, he will be happy, and so will the fans here at Velocitta. Great effort from Marcel Muller, the 33-year-old. He's done so much for Brazilian motorsport over the years. Been quite an incredible competitor in the past, including racing in MXGP. Certainly the only driver in the grid to have converted from two-wheel racing to 4. So I'm hoping to see what he can continue to do as we move further forward into the weekend. But certainly, it's a great starting point. And Marcel Muller goes into the weekend with plenty of opportunity. Big excitement, big chances. We'll see if he can turn around his fortunes. A year ago, he was leading the opening round of the championship in the first race when a puncture took him out of the running. Then again, at round 2, he had a chance to redeem himself, and it happened again while leading in race 1 of round 2. Then, unbelievably, a few weeks later at Interlagos, he was leading race 1 of round 3, and it happened again. 2025 really was the year from hell for Marcel Muller, but 2026 looks like it's turning into a year of paradise. He gets the pole position trophy, and that'll do for Marcel Muller. So he goes into the race this afternoon from pole position. And to be honest, you would be quite a brave man to bet against him taking the victory this afternoon. Mind you, we've said that before. Hopefully the racing gods are on his side in 2026. They certainly were at Interlagos. So we'll see if that form is the one that's going to continue rather than the bad luck streak of a few weeks ago, of 12 months ago. But last year was definitely a very interesting situation for him. This year, well, Marcel Muller comes into the weekend 2 points clear of Jeff Chiassi and 5 points clear of Matthias Camperato, but there are the pole positions here in Velocitta. Alcifel and Jose Morenito join the man on pole position overall, Marcel Muller. No worries at all for those three. They've done a fantastic job leading up to this, and it really has been great to see what they've put on in terms of a show. And they've been wonderful to witness. So, of course, we had some great battles across the races last time out. And now we know the identities of the pole positions in Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. Now, we are going to do it again as the battle is joined again for Porsche Sprint Challenge Brasil. And so the drivers venture out onto the circuit, ready for another go. For the second time this year, Porsche Sprint Challenge Brasil drivers take to the circuit. First of all, in the rookie category, then it will be the Challenge and Challenge Sport categories out together, most likely. But for the moment, it's the rookies. Rafael Bernardes, Charles Grunberg, Ricardo Zilberman, Lucas Castellani, Gabriel Cestari, Dilson Perez Jr., Eldo Umbalino, Emilia Morera, and Claudio Chimiao. So Rafael Bernardes, the first one out onto the circuit. We're still waiting for Adriano Valverde to come out onto the circuit as well. He remains in the box. The drivers get 12 minutes of qualifying in the Sprint Challenge rather than 10 minutes in Carrera Cup. That's because the Sprint Challenge drivers don't have as much experience as the Carrera Cup drivers, so they get that 2 minutes extra time to put a little bit more rubber down on the circuit, get a little bit more out of the car. So it's going to be a fascinating one, as the battles will definitely be joined. So we'll see Rafael Bernardes go to battle. There's already a penalty, I'm afraid to say. And I think that is for going too fast out of the pit lane. That is Eldo Umbalino. So Umbalino is already having some difficulties at the start of this one. Not a great situation to be in. So Eldo Umbalino taking a penalty before he's even put a lap down in qualifying. Don't go too fast out of the pits in future. That's the moral of that story. So there is the number 11, Emilio Moreira. Not a new face in Brazilian motorsport. Has certainly been doing various different categories here and there. But good to see him in Porsche Brasil mode. Number 16 out on circuit as well. That is the car belonging to Gabriel Cestari. But it's all about getting the tyres up to temperature as usual. Rafael Bernardes getting the top spot at the moment with a 1:35.729, but that is purely because he was the first one to come out onto the circuit. If we actually look at the practice times from Sprint Challenge, we tell a very different story about who's done what. 36 drivers in Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil, 21 drivers in Sprint Challenge, so a very different setup. The fastest rookie driver in practice yesterday was Emilio Moreira. Got a 1:32.98 out of the circuit. And currently, Rafael Bernardes is on a 1:35.7. In fact, Bernardes' time is going to be an interesting one because he wasn't here yesterday. Unfortunately, drivers do have work schedules, and so sometimes you have to miss practice. As long as you've done testing on the circuit prior to actually racing in it, then there is a little bit of leeway. But a lot of these drivers, most of them, are not professionals, or certainly not aspirant professional racing drivers. A lot of them have a business that they have to attend to in the middle of the week. And so it's rather important for them to give themselves a little bit of a balancing act between racing and working. Such is the way in Carrera Cup. So currently, the top spot comes from Adriano Valverde, 1:34.69. Good start to get the ball rolling. But again, there's so much more where that came from. There is the Kart Panda car, driven by Lucas Castellani. Another strong talent in the Porsche Brazil fraternity in Sprint Challenge. Castellani actually did a fair job in practice. The rookie driver got a 1:35.1 out of the car. And already Castellani is looking to go quicker than that. We'll have to see what his lap time is when he comes through. Will he go quicker than he did in practice? Oh, just a little bit. Nearly 2 seconds quicker. My goodness. Someone's motivated. So Lucas Castellani goes into second behind Rafael Bernardes. Charles Grunberg is now third. Zilberman fourth from Valverde, Perez Jr., Barrera, Umbellino, Chimiao, and Gabriel Cestari. Just 10 drivers in the rookie category. And one swap out, because at the first round of the championship it was Marcello Bentivoglio who drove the car at Interlagos. Well, now it is Gabriel Cestari's turn to take over that entry. Not necessarily that car, but certainly that entry. There is the 7, Adriano Valverde, still going strong. A very solid start to proceedings in the number 7 car, the Oricchio car. Interesting how a lot of the business deals to change the colour schemes of the car haven't actually taken place until after the first round at Interlagos 4 weeks ago. Many of those commercial partnerships obviously not quite getting across the line yet. So they obviously had to wait until this round of the championship. Oh, Dilson Perez. Goodness me, really threatening to straight line there. Mentor, lawyer, entrepreneur, racer. Dilson Perez Jr., the man of many talents. 5 minutes to go in the session. Fastest of all in Sector 1 is Claudio Chimiao, 27.5. Fastest of all in Sector 2 is Adriano Valverde, 25.8. So we'll see what kind of lap times we get as the session continues, because we are getting closer to the checkered flag. Treble 2 coming through, that is Edo Umbellino. So Edo Umbellino, the man who got the penalty on his way out of the pit lane. Left the box too fast. Not meant to do that. You are meant to adhere to the speed limit. Now, these are the older generation cars, and unlike their Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil counterparts, they do not have a push-to-pass button. In fact, Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil is one of the only Carrera Cup championships on the planet that does have a push-to-pass, brought in last year to celebrate 20 years of the championship, and it only happens in Carrera Cup Brazil. In Sprint Challenge, there is no push-to-pass button. So here is the hard-charging Gabriel Cestari. Good to see him out on track for the first time this season, replacing Marcello Bentivoglio. And obviously we'll get to see what the competitors can do in terms of lap times, as Claudio Chimiao gets a 1:32.519, 0.06 of a second quicker than Adriano Valverde. Lucas Castellani is currently third in front of Rafael Bernardes, Charles Grunberg, and Ricardo Zilberman. What are we about to see a replay of? Grass tracking, that's what. That's a Porsche-shaped lawnmower. But fortunately, it hasn't caused too much of a difficulty for the 58, Claudio Chimiao, because he was the fastest on track anyway. So this lap is going to be a slower one. We all know why. But the previous lap is a legal one, so that's not going to get deleted. But now Claudio Chimiao setting himself up for a faster lap time. His lap time as he came across the line then was a 1:33.2, so that was only 0.7 of a second slower than he'd previously gone. So there could be a mega lap still waiting in the wings. That's the number 4 Evol car, driven by Charles Grunberg. Raced F3 Sudan and Formula Sao Paulo all the way back in the 2000s, did Charles Grunberg. Good to see him pick up the pieces and go for even more strength and depth in the field. Good to see him behind the wheel of the Porsche 992 Carrera Cup car. And across the line, what kind of a lap time is he going to give us? It's only good enough for P6, but it is his personal best, a 1:32.971. 0.5 of a second slower than that of Gabriel Cestari. There's Rafael Bernardes, though, fastest of the rookies, 1:32.388. Now, in the Sprint Challenge of Brazil, there is a chance we may get a rookie or two in the overall top 10. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as Lucas Castellani goes top. 1:32.295 with just over a minute and a half to go. So very good work indeed from Lucas Castellani. In front of Bernardes, then Shimiao, Valverde, Cestari, Grunberg, Zilberman, Perez Jr., Umberlino, and Moreira. That's what happens when you get the back out in a Porsche. That was so nearly a brilliant save. But to be fair, that's going to be drifting on the curb, and he's going to get that pointed in the right direction again. So, well held initially, but then the car slapped away from him. But he's been able to get it relatively saved. No damage done. But now only a minute to get another lap time down on the board. No time to see what Valverde can give us. Only 2 sessions to go after this one because we'll have the Sport and Challenge drivers out together. And then whoever's left will have their top 10 shootout. And then we will have a clearer understanding as to who's doing what this weekend. Valverde still looking for that elusive top spot. Castellani holds it at the moment on a 1:32.295. Fastest second sector of anybody from Adriano Valverde. And with a first sector time of 27.365, that's achievable. As he comes across the sector timeline now, is this going to be better? It's 0.2 of a second away from his best in the second sector and 0.4 of a second away in the first sector, in fact. So that's not going to be a quicker lap time from Valverde, and he knows it. He's gone into cruise control mode, limping back to the pits, as is pretty much everybody. Going to see if anybody's on a faster lap. Well, Shimiao is actually 25.8 for this second sector. But the first sector is a 27.9, so I don't think we're going to see any improvements there. So certainly for the moment, it's Lucas Castellani that comes up with the goods and is the fastest of the rookie drivers for the moment. I don't want to say it's a confirmed rookie pole, because if, let's say, for example, he and Bernardes both managed to get through to the top 10 shootout, and then Bernardes went quicker than Castellani, then Bernardes would actually have the rookie pole. Checkered flag across the line for the 100. Bernardes doesn't improve. And this is the final couple of corners for a couple of the others in the field. Looks to me like a last chance effort from Ricardo Zilberman. Oh no, it's the 23, my apologies. So Lucas Castellani on another quick lap, going to complete it by crossing the checkered flag line. He doesn't improve, but he doesn't care. Pole position, provisionally, for the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil in the rookie category. Zilberman crosses the line, outpaces Dilson Perez Jr., Ido Umberlino and Emilio Moreira. Cestari goes 5th, not bad for his first appearance. He could be quite happy with that, actually. Just in behind Shimiao and Valverde. And then Charles Grunberg has already pitted. So that's it. That's all she wrote for the rookies. Lucas Castellani, Rafael Bernardes and Claudio Shimiao, the top 3, and all 3 of them will just be hoping that the competitive pace of the drivers across the other categories is not that good. So we're going to get, I believe, 12 drivers out on the circuit for the last practice session, the last time trial, I should say. That will be quite significant because we'll have the likes of Enrico Pedrosa, Ilya Norbelo, Neto Hale, Nicolas Garfinkel, Gabriel Coupet and Marco Mascari in Sport. And then in Challenge, we're only going to get 5. Will Cesar, Gerson Campos, Sadek Leiter, Caio Castro and Daniel Newman. So we're waiting for Lucas Castellani to bring his car back. But of course, he might need it again. If he gets through to the top 10 shootout, who knows? He might well need that car again. Meanwhile, though, down pit lane, all of the rookies that have taken to the circuit over the 12 minutes will now continue on back to the pit lane as the drivers are getting ready for the next battle on the circuit. That's going to be the combination of the Cup and Sprint drivers across Challenge. It really is going to be fascinating to see who gets it done. In practice yesterday, the fastest driver was actually a sport driver, Enrico Pedrosa. So with Enrico Pedrosa getting his chance to go for the overall pole position, we could see a sport driver in pole. Always springs up a few surprises, does Velocitta. Love this circuit. Love this championship. Always nail-biting stuff, edge of your seat racing. And the qualifying session is what gets us to that point. Great to have your supports on the stream. Lucambria cheering on Pietro Fantin in the Porsche Carrera Cup Brasil. He's going to have some fun later because Pietro Fantin, of course, starting right over the sharp end. The 34-year-old from Curitiba. Did all sorts back in the day. Raced for Draco in Formula Renault 3.5 in the days I used to commentate for Eurosport. Tested for Arden in GP2. British Formula 3 in 2010 to 2012. He was a great single-seater racer. Took some time out of racing. Great to see him back in motorsport again, particularly here in Porsche Carrera Cup, where it's a bit more fun, a bit less pressure than the gritty, tough as nails world of single-seaters. Happy start to the day for Lucas Castellani. That'll do. I'm happy with that. And I'm sure everybody at Kart Panda will be as well. Great start for Lucas Castellani. Quickest of the rookies ahead of Rafael Bernardes, Claudio Chimiao, Adriano Valverde, Gabriel Cestari, Charles Grunberg, Ricardo Zelberman, Dilson Perez Jr., Aido Umbalino, and Emilio Barrera. So on to the circuit we go, into the next battle on the course. A combination of challenge and sport challenge drivers now venture to get into the top 10. Provisionally, Lucas Castellani is the lead driver, but there's more drivers to come. So venturing out onto the circuit, we have Gerson Campos, Will Cesar, and Nito Hale leading the field out. I'll be very impressed to see what kind of performances these drivers will give us now. Nicolas Garfinkel is going to be in the mix, as is Enrico Pedrosa. Nicolas Garfinkel, of course, debuted in Porsches last year in the trophy category, karting first. Actually did a test drive in an F4 Brasil car last December as well. Joining the ranks of the rookie talents, of the sport talents, I should say, sorry, like Gabriel Coupert and Marco Masciari. So expect them to put on a good show. Sadek Leiter will want a good run as well. There's the 98 out on the circuit. Cecilia Rebello. Very excited to see what she can give us, as always. Cecilia Rebello, of course, one of the two females in the paddock. Drove Formula Delta back in 22. F4 Brazil for 2 seasons. Took a class win at Portimao last year. And back in January, also raced in the IMSA VP Challenge. Out of all places, Daytona. Big talent, Cecilia Rebello. And we'll see if she can go for the victory. She is, of course, competing in the sport category only. But in sport, there are some big opportunities. She's currently running in the white Porsche. This is one of the donor cars, one of the spare cars, if you will. And she hasn't come up on the timing screen yet, so I have a feeling that that's been a last-minute decision to not put her in the race car. I wonder if she's qualifying in the donor car, and the mechanics will carry on working on her race car ahead of race 1. As long as she's on the grid, I think that's really all that matters, isn't it? As far as the team are concerned. There is the 82, Gerson Campos, favourite to get into pole position. Certainly a very tough competitor. You can see how difficult it is getting on the brakes over that blind crest. And then you drop down up towards the braking zone because the car starts to snake around all over the place. Very difficult to figure out where the balance is in that car. But certainly all guns blazing at the moment, as we wait to see if there's going to be another pole position lap in the bank for Geração Campos. Now, interestingly, I have seen Cecilia de Bello out on the circuit, but I haven't seen her lap times, because she doesn't appear to be popping up on the transponders yet. 1:33.2 for Geração Campos. Don't tell me that they've sent her out onto the circuit without remembering to put the transponder in the car. Now Cecilia de Bello is featuring, so it was a donor car. They've obviously had to configure with the car going out on circuit. Clearly she's doing qualifying in the donor car, and if they can put her car back together after the incident she had yesterday, then the race will be perfectly okay for that car to run. Let's hope so. Up and over the top of the crest, the fastest man now is Enrico Pedrosa, as we look at Nicholas Garfinkel. Garfinkel's just done a 1:34.5. That moves him up a little bit as we now take our eyes to the 78 car. That is the machine belonging to the leading driver, Enrico Pedrosa. Good to see it. And certainly wanting to put on a decent show in the Avalon Porsche. Missed the first round of the championship at Interlagos, but good to see him out for this one. Here at Velocitta, he's got a great chance of putting on a good showcase. Sadek Leiter goes second position. Sadek Leiter now in P2. Up to the top spot though comes Geração Campos. 1:31.556 for Geração Campos. Great run. That's already 0.2 of a second quicker than anything Enrico Pedrosa has cooked up. So we'll wait to see Daniel Newman. 1:31.49, new fastest time. Good work from Daniel Newman. Will Cesar is about to come across the line as well. What can he do? Second. Wow, that's very improved for Will Cesar. He was struggling to keep up with the leaders in Interlagos. Now he's found the pace. It's great news for Will Cesar, as back on top comes Enrico Pedrosa. He goes fastest. Good effort from him. And Nicholas Garfinkel goes second. So the lap times really are starting to tumble now. This is the chance for Cecilia de Bello. We'll see what she can do. She'll be the last one to set a lap time. Somebody just went off the road in front, actually, of Cecilia de Bello, just kicking up some dust. So I'll try and figure out who that is, but we're focusing so hard on Cecilia de Bello's number 98 donor car Porsche that we seem to have lost track of who the driver is in front. But certainly some big opportunities for the drivers in front. It's one of the drivers in the main category. There's the telltale driver. It's Daniel Newman. Oops. Fortunately, Newman is the fastest of the challenge drivers at the moment. 1:31.4. 0.7 of a second slower than Pedrosa. But I've got a feeling that Pedrosa is going to have a much faster time in the bag still. 5 minutes and 20. Another bit of dust kicked up by Daniel Newman on his way to a 1:31.0, which is quick enough to be the fastest challenge driver until Will Cesar turns up. 1:30.599. Great run from Will Cesar. We now take our eyes to number 3. That is Gabriel Goupert. So is Gabriel Goupert going to get a good run off the turn? Trophy Sport champion back in 2025. Now stepping up to Porsche Sprint Challenge. Let's see what he can do as he comes across the line. Well, so far, Gabriel Goupert's best time is a 1:31.399. That's what that time was. And now all of the drivers in sport are quicker than all of the rookies, as Cecilia de Bello goes 5th quickest. And I can tell you that I'm afraid all of the rookies have been eliminated from the top 10 shootout. And that means that Lucas Castellani is going to be the rookie pole sitter. So with all drivers making it to the top 10, I wonder now if we're going to have, well, we've got 4 minutes remaining, but now we've got the battle for pole position. essentially we're left with the top 10 all being in this session. So are they going to send them out again for the shootout? Or is that going to be declared it at the end of the session? I know if I was the race official wanting to save some time, I think I'd know what I'd choose. But of course, with everybody having made it through to the top 10, still got 3¼ minutes on the timing screen, roughly. There's still a chance that they can come out and go for it again for the pole position. Off the turn comes the hard-charging Nicolas Gardfinkel, who is now the quickest driver on a 1:30.2. Oh, sorry, that is the man who's trying to catch him, Enrico Pedrosa, 14 thousandths of a second in it. Here's Sadaglater. Big lock-up and overshooting. There goes that qualifying time, and possibly that set of tyres as well. So any chance Sadaglater might have had a pole position is gone, but he's not the only one. Cecilia Rebello overshoots at the first corner, and that's her in 5th position, but she may not improve. 2¾ minutes left, and Sadaglater is going to try and set himself up with another fast lap time. He's going to be careful he doesn't hold up the car behind him. He's actually going to use his car to his advantage to try and soak up the good lap time here. Trying to see who it is. I was just wondering if it's Will Cesar. Oh, it's not. It's 82. So that is Gerson Campos. So Gerson Campos following in the wheel tracks of Sadaglater. But again, the sport drivers are going, well, oh! Back into the pit lane comes the orange machine. That is going to be Marco Masciari, I think. Along with Will Cesar and Daniel Newman. They both come into the pits as well. Just getting into the top 10 will do. Because, of course, all of these drivers are now going to have to shoot it out for pole position. But Gardfinkel and Pedrosa, interestingly, are quicker than the 2 top drivers in challenge, Will Cesar and Daniel Newman at the moment. Then Cecilia Rebello from Netohel, Sadaglater, Gabriel Couper, Marco Masciari, and Gerson Campos down in P10. Well done to this man, though. Will Cesar. What a great performance in his second weekend. He was well off the pace in Interlagos. Now he is right up there on the second row of the grid provisionally. Good start. And there is Gerson Campos trying to get himself up to speed later. He doesn't have to worry about it now, of course. 10th position, okay, but to be honest, now that everybody's managed to overtake all of the rookies, they know they can go for the shootout as Netohel goes for position in the second session. Change the tyres, sort out the tyre pressures, take any advice if needed from the Michelin men, but so far, so good. So the drivers are getting prepared for the final shootout. We now know that all 10 drivers across Challenge and Sport are going to be in that final 10, so there was no point staying out on track once we got to that stage. Time to bring it back in, let the drivers go for their fast laps. But this man is a genuine threat for pole, Will Cesar. Who would have thought that he would be in contention for the pole position 4 weeks after really struggling to stay on the top 5's tail? Nicolas Gardfinkel, very quick, quickest of all in fact, so far. Netohel, P6, just in behind Cecilia Rebello. 331, the Reve car of Netohel. But still all the drivers know there's going to be a big push to try and get some more pace in this final top 10 shootout. Time ticked down to 0. Everybody came back into the pits, I believe, except for Cecilia Rebello. Gardfinkel is making his way. Well, hang on, did Cecilia Rebello, did she park out on the circuit? Because she doesn't appear to have come back to the pits. As we're watching replays of Nicolas Gardfinkel, we saw Cecilia Rebello have that spin, but I'm not sure if she's in her car for the race or if she's in the donor car all weekend. And certainly spinning out in qualifying, we saw that earlier on, but I don't know whether she got going again, because according to the timing screen, everybody's in pit lane except for Cecilia Rebello. Now, that might not be accurate because, of course, she's got a donor car, so the transponder may not have been configured or synchronized properly, whatever it might be, which is why we didn't see her out initially on the timing screen. We saw her out in person, obviously. But I'm interested now to see if that timing screen is accurate, and if it is, then Cecilia Rebello is not in pit lane. She has stopped out on the circuit, most likely at turn 1, where she spun off. But I didn't see her stranded there at the side of the circuit, so I'm not sure if that's the case. If that is the case, then Cecilia Rebello is going to be starting P10 for the race this afternoon. And that will be quite a disappointment for her, especially considering that some of the sport drivers are battling for pole position, including the likes of Enrico Pedrosa and Nicholas Garfinkel. Garfinkel currently the fastest of all. A little bit of cooling system needed there for Daniel Newman. Very hot indeed here in Mogi Guaçu. Fabulous part of Brazil. This circuit often gets overlooked in national motorsport, or I should say global motorsport circles. Velocitta, a very talented race circuit, especially when you come off the fact that we had the Grand Prix in Formula 1 at Interlagos and the Grand Prix in motorcycles at the Ayrton circuit at Goiânia. But it's great to see everybody gearing up, ready for another go of it. We reset. We've got 10 minutes only for the shootout, not 12. And so that gives us a very intriguing battle ahead of us, ready for the next phase. So Gabriel Cooper, Nicholas Garfinkel, Marco Masciari, Daniel Newman, Sharak Laita, Enrico Pedrosa, Gerson Campos, Cecilia Rebello, Will Cesar and Nato Hale will go to the battle for pole position across the 10-minute shootout. New tyres bolted on. Head out onto the circuit. Drive it like you stole it. Adjustment there to the angle of the wing, it looks like. That's one of the only major changes you can really make, and that obviously settles the balance of the aerodynamics at the back of the car. And you may not think that makes a massive difference, but it's the tiniest little adjustment that just gives the car a little bit more flow. You can put it to a position where the wind pushes further down on the back of the car, or helps it to pick up a little bit more straight line speed. Those tiny things really can make a difference. Well, Cesar, 1:34. One of the 4 drivers this weekend in the Challenge category. We've obviously got Challenge Sport and Challenge Rookie as well. 6 drivers in Challenge Sport: Gabriel Cooper, Nicholas Garfinkel, Marco Masciari, Enrico Pedrosa, Cecilia Rebello and Nato Hale. The other 4, Daniel Newman, Sharak Laite, Gerson Campos and Will Cesar, all in the Challenge category. So certainly for the first race of the weekend a little later today, the challenge for Porsche Sprint Challenge now for these 10 remaining drivers, all of the Sport and all of the Challenge drivers, is to put the car into pole position. So are we going to get to see a Sport pole position? Does happen occasionally, and certainly in the top 10 last time out, where all these drivers were together. It was Nicholas Garfinkel ahead of Enrico Pedrosa, and then Daniel Newman in 3rd. So there's no reason why a sport car couldn't go quicker than a challenge car. It's Cecilia Rebello, so that answers my question from before about whether or not she's actually back in pit lane. She was. That is very good news. So now we will go to battle in fantastic fashion. The time to dial the car back in again. Getting us up to speed once more. In the hope that we're going to have another great battle. And so the drivers will continue. Time to dial up and get yourself back up to speed again then. The shootout for the Sprint Challenge pole position in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil, brought to you by C6 Bank, 2026 season. After last year, we celebrated 20 years of Porsche racing in Brazil. In 2026, it's going to be a very tough battle for the title. So now the drivers are pushing it to try and get to the top spot. Pole position is what's up for grabs, and certainly everybody knows exactly what's at stake. And I sense we're going to get a very competitive run to the top spot, to the pole time. At least 5 drivers are candidates for pole position here for me. Daniel Newman, Will Cesar, Gerson Campos, and of course Nicolas Garfinkel and Enrico Pedrosa have to be, based on their laps in the previous session. Static later has a chance, of course, as well. I would also say keep an eye on Cecilia Rebello, even though she's not in her race car. As long as she can get a relatively good feeling in the donor car, then why not? Why not a decent lap time? Why not a front row starting position? So Marco Masciari opens the ball rolling, 1:32.12. Still a lot of speed to find. But these last 6 3/4 minutes will determine the fate of the driver who starts from pole position. We know already it's going to be Marcel Muller in Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil. But in challenge, who's going to get the job done? Out of the final turn, down the straight, up the crest, then dropping down to the braking zone for turn 1. Actually cross the pit lane and exit line. The drivers are allowed to do it as long as there's respect to the fact that there could be cars coming down pit lane. Will Cesar in the 134 machine. Great talent. Competed in Race Cup BR in 2024 and Stock Car Lights last season. Moving across to the Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil in the Sprint Challenge category. A statement of intent for this young man, Will Cesar, hoping to continue and give us more exciting battles. Unfortunate that this weekend we don't have the presence of Caio Castro, who did such a fantastic job last time out, of course, but Caio Castro not in the mix for this weekend. We're obviously going to have to see some more great challenges and some more great battles from the competitors as they work on and move their way further forward. But everybody's looking forward to seeing more great performances from the contenders. It's unusual that Caio Castro is not out there because he was supposed to be, he was signed up to be, certainly. And all of the videos and all of the preamble on the social media channels told us that he was ready to go out onto the circuit, but there's been no sign of Caio Castro after he did such a grand job in free practice. Certainly looking particularly strong for Caio Castro. I wonder if he's going to be out in time for the race, because that would certainly be fairly devastating if he's not able to do that. He was certainly fastest in the free practice session yesterday, so where is Caio Castro on Saturday morning is all we can say, because we honestly don't know the answer to that question. Third quickest in the second free practice session, absent today. So we're not entirely sure. We'll try and give you an update as to why Caio Castro has had to sit out qualifying, having been either fastest or close to the fastest in the first couple of sessions. A very interesting situation. So the drivers are getting themselves dialed in then for this last push for pole position. Daniel Newman currently has it provisionally on a 1:30.447, but I think you're going to see more. 3 minutes 20 on the clock. There's still time for drivers to find their feet and get a decent lap time on the board. What about Enrico Pedrosa? 1 minute 30.2. That puts him on to provisional pole position. Now the times are really going to start to tumble as more drivers try and take on the challenge of pole position. Well, it's a good effort from Gerson Campos, but it's only good enough for P6. Dan Newman is second. Third is Will Cesar. Then Nicolas Garfinkel, Gabriel Goubert, and Gerson Campos. Oh, Cecilio Rebello has gone P6. So Cecilio Rebello now into P6 in front of Gerson Campos. Then Neto Hale, Staracleta, and Marco Masciari. 2 minutes and 40 or so left on the clock. We'll see what the lap time pace is going to be for the 1:34. No major changes on that lap from Will Cesar. He did a 1:32.0 compared to the time set of a 1:30.5, and then set himself up, dialed him in for another go. There is the 15. Oh! Pirouette around for Marco Masciari. And that's a yellow flag on the penultimate corner. So that could be enough to bring out the yellow flags for long enough that we don't get any more improvements. Too early on the throttle, and he got on the brake as well. Upsets the balance of the car, spins it around. I actually did that on my simulator earlier this week. It's rather embarrassing when you do it. But the good news is that Marco Masciari has got going again, so we do not have to stop the session. Currently it's Pedrosa, the sport driver, number 78, who leads and looks likely to get the pole position in both sport and challenge overall. Daniel Newman, second. Will Cesar, third. From Garfinkel, Goubert, Rebello, Campos, Hale, Leiter, and Masciari. Well, we are told, trying to get some information on the situation out on the circuit. I'm told that Caio Castro was actually late to the circuit, which is why he's not been able to get out onto the course for qualifying. So whatever happens, he's going to have to start the race, certainly today, from the back of the grid. So very dramatic indeed for Caio Castro. So he actually arrived late to the circuit, Caio Castro, so that's unfortunate. The award-winning actor, model, and then racing driver who's competed in everything from super trucks to Formula V to Brazilian Porsches. But clearly, for whatever reason, whether he missed his bus, whether he had a problem this morning, he couldn't find his shaving brush, whatever it was, but Caio Castro unable to make it to the circuit in time for qualifying. Right, a few seconds left on the board for Nicolas Garfinkel. He's bailed out of this lap. Now he's going on to a new one in the hope that it's going to be good enough to put him on pole position. Enrico Pedrosa has done a 1 minute 30.207. His last time was a 1:32.2, but he crossed the line. He can do one flying lap. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's it, folks. Oh, and Garfinkel's already bailed out of the lap. Garfinkel must have made a mistake in the first sector. So Garfinkel's going no further. Will Cesar is going no further. He didn't make it back to the line in time to start another lap, and this lap clearly wasn't quick enough. So is it going to be Enrico Pedrosa? It's not going to be Daniel Newman. It's not going to be Will Cesar, and it's not going to be Nicolas Garfinkel or Gabriel Goubert. So surely this man, Enrico Pedrosa, is going to be pole position. Cecilio Rebello has just done a first sector of 27.0. Gerson Campos at 27.1. So neither of those two drivers are going to be a threat for pole position either. So I think it's fair to say that Enrico Pedrosa is going to get pole position in challenge and sport after a fabulous, fabulous performance where Lucas Castellani gets the pole position in rookie. Did he bail out? I wasn't sure if at the very end of the lap he bailed out there. Gerson Campos isn't bailing out. He's got to keep pushing. Garfinkel does keep going. There's Gerson Campos trying to get out of 7th position. And indeed, Pedrosa did come into the pits to park it. He clearly feels nobody can beat him. Can Campos at least get out of P7 and work his way back into the top 5? He'd have to displace Cecilia de Bello and Gabriel Guper in order to get to the top 5. But he might just have enough in the tank to do that. Across the line, no change. Gerson Campos settles for P7 ahead of Neto Hale, Saraglete and Marco Machadi. So there you are, ladies and gentlemen. That's all she wrote. Pole position, Enrico Pedrosa. In both the challenge and sport classes, it is absolute rout from Enrico Pedrosa. Nicolas Garfinkel got the job done before, but Garfinkel was not able to get it done on the second time in the shootout. So it's Enrico Pedrosa, the number 78 car that emulates Marcel Muller in Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil, and in Porsche Sprint Challenge Brazil, it is Enrico Pedrosa who gets the pole position, both in sport and challenge overall. So it's a fabulous end to a great start to the qualifying procedure and a great start to everything else as well. But it's going to be a fabulous start to the weekend for this man. What a great run. As pole position now goes the way of Enrico Pedrosa. Great start here at Velocitta. The first race is coming up later on this afternoon. Kick starting at 1:45 p.m. So we're going to get a really exciting battle in the offing here at Velocitta. This place usually provides drama and excitement aplenty. So make sure you like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. You won't miss a moment of the race action this afternoon. And we've got a second race tomorrow, of course, as well. So 2 races back-to-back here at Velocitta. Carrera Cup Brazil and Sprint Challenge Brazil. Good performances all round. And for this man, Enrico Pedrosa, it's a great start. Pole position. So that wraps it up for time qualifying then here in the second round of the 2026 Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil and Sprint Challenge Brazil, brought to you by C6 Bank. We've had a fantastic opener at Interlagos 4 weeks ago. Now as the championship continues here at Velocitta in Mogi Guaçu, expect some fireworks. We're going to see plenty of them from the racing that we had earlier on. Pole position across the 3 categories in Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil were namely Marcel Muller, Alci Feldman Sr. and Jose Morenito. Here in the Challenge Cup, it's a pole position in both sport and challenge for Enrico Pedrosa, the rookie pole position, going the way of Lucas Castellani. So Velocitta is going to give us lots of thrills and spills later on. Certainly, the qualifying sessions ran absolutely to note, even though we had a couple of split-ups and spins. Full credit to all the marshals and the officials, and full credit to all the drivers as well for keeping it green all the way through. No red flags, no yellow flags, really. No stoppages, just a proper nails-to-the-wall qualifying session. And great to see a big battle across both categories. So we're going to see a really exciting pair of races over the course of the weekend. Expect all the drama to rise to a crescendo. You can follow all the action on social media as well between races and around the atmosphere of the paddock at Porsche Cup Brasil. Brazil with an S, of course, because we say it in Portuguese. So it's going to be a very exciting day at the races. 2 exciting battles to come. But it's definitely going to be nail-biting to the last, with all the drivers knowing exactly what to expect of this Velocitta circuit. For the last few years, the season opener, or the season second round at Velocitta, has been nail-biting. It's sure to be again. We'll see you later for the first race of the weekend and the second round of the championship. From me, Jake Sanson, and my producer, Nicola Sotolu, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell, and you won't miss the races coming up today and tomorrow. From Interlagos to Velocitta and beyond, Porsche Carrera Cup Brazil and Sprint Challenge Brazil in 2026. Nail-biting, adrenaline rushing, and never-ending. Let's go.